Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to read you another book in the Ordinary People Change the World series. This one is called I Am Helen Keller. On the back cover of the book, it reads, I am Helen Keller and I won't let anything stop me. Helen Keller was a woman, or a little girl, I should say, who was faced with really, really big challenges, and she persevered. So I think you guys will enjoy this story. I hope so. I am Helen Keller. When I was little, I was just like you. I loved to play, I loved my dog, and I loved seeing all the bright, beautiful flowers. I also loved copying people. At 6 months old, I could already say, howdy, T. Howdy yourself. Did she just ask for tea? How'd she do that? What can I say? There's no stopping her, said her mom. On the day I turned 1, I started walking. Oh, and there was another word I always loved. Wawa. Here's your water. Just like any other kid, right? But there's one thing that made me different. When I was 19 months old, I got very sick. The doctors said that I wouldn't live. I did live, but the sickness made me blind and deaf. This is how I see the world. Close your eyes and block your ears. I couldn't see anything or hear anything. That's right, nothing. I know it seems scary, and it was scary for me too. Back then, people didn't know how to deal with someone who was deaf and blind. My relatives thought I was a monster. You see the way she behaves? She put her hand in my plate and she ate my food. Wah, 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 Helen said. She's trying to find her water. She threw the silverware too. She's so poorly behaved, she shouldn't be here. They were right. I wasn't well behaved. I was extremely frustrated. In my dark world, I couldn't tell if anyone noticed me or cared about me. I couldn't see or hear what I was doing. But by the time I was 5, I figured out some small ways to communicate. To say yes, I nodded my head. For no, I shook it side to side. We all know how to do that. To say father, I motioned to put on his glasses. For mother, I rested my hand on my face. For my baby sister, I did this. Her baby sister must suck her thumb. And when I'd shiver like I was cold, it really meant, I want ice cream. Helen was pretty smart that she figured that out, wasn't she? But even with those signs, I couldn't get my dog, Belle, to play with me. I didn't know how to speak, so I couldn't call her. I just wanted to play with my dog, and the saddest part was, I got used to a dark and silent world. People told my parents to give up on me, that I'd never be good at anything. They didn't listen, though. After reading about another blind and deaf girl, my parents found something that hadn't had since I'd gotten sick. Hope. This says there are places that teach deaf and blind children. That's what she needs. She needs a teacher, Helen's mom said. We all do. Everyone needs a teacher. Still, I had no idea what the world was about to bring me. I never had a more important day. I was 6 years old. From the way my mother was hurrying, I knew something big was coming. I stood on the porch, waiting, feeling the sun on my face. Someone approached. I could feel footsteps. I reached out, thinking it was my mother, and she pulled me into her arms. Her name was Sullivan. She is the teacher who changed my life. In one of her first lessons, she gave me a toy doll. After letting me play with the doll, she spelled the word doll in the palm of my hand. D-O-L-L. Can you feel the letters? I could feel them, but I didn't know what letters or words were or how they worked. It didn't stop Miss Sullivan. One day, we were arguing as she was trying to teach me words mug and water. I got so upset, I took my new doll and smashed it on the ground. I got angry a lot back then. It was so hard for me. I was frustrated. Never losing her patience, my teacher took me outside. At a nearby spout, she put my hand under the running water. In my other hand, she spelled the word W-A-T-E-R. Then she spelled it again, and again, and again, and again. W-A-T-E-R. W-A-T-E-R. Suddenly, Helen understood. From there, I realized that everything had a name. Every object I touched seemed to burst to life. So she's naming mother and table and lamp and father and sister and teacher. And now, when I wrote words in my teacher's hand, I had someone who could understand me. When you're learning something new, it's often hard. I started with words and my vocabulary grew fast. Eventually, I learned the meaning of the word love. I had given my teacher some flowers, so she spelled into my hand, I love you, Helen. Confused, I asked her, what is love? It is here, she spelled while tapping at my heart. I was still confused. It was hard to understand something that I couldn't touch. It made no sense. Why couldn't my teacher show me love? And then she explained. You can't touch the clouds, but you can feel rain. And you know how happy flowers are to get watered. That is how love is. You can't touch love, but you can feel how happy it makes you. There, in that moment, my whole world changed. It was as if there were invisible lines that stretched between me and everyone else in my life. Close your eyes. You can feel it too. Your connection to your family and your friends. Still, life was never easy. Without sight, I couldn't see people's faces. Without sound, I couldn't hear their voices. But one of my greatest breakthroughs came when I learned to do what you're doing right now, reading. Read without eyes? How's she going to do that? You'll read with your fingers. On this cardboard, you'll feel raised dots. The dots make letters, and the letters make words. This is the word for doll. To practice, I'd match each word with its object and make sentences. This was my favorite game. We played it for hours. See if you can find the sentence. Girl is in wardrobe. I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but it's all over here where Helen herself is hiding in the wardrobe. Imagine how challenging it was to learn to read. Very different than the experience most of you are having now, wouldn't you say? From there, I started reading real books, just like you. The only difference was my books were in braille, which is a series of raised dots that you read with your fingers. Go ahead and try. Move your pointer finger over the dots below. I don't think you can do this when you're looking at it on the screen, but maybe you can close your eyes and imagine what it feels like. Each one of those little dots below the arrow are bumps on the paper. At first, it just feels bumpy, right? Well, you'll get used to it. These dots spell my name, Helen. On this page, again, because you guys don't have the book in front of you, it's a little hard, but what she's saying, if you want to read your name in Braille, here's the alphabet. You can run your pointer finger over the letters and close your eyes. Then you'd be reading just like Helen. To make reading even more fun, my teacher took me outside. She knew I loved feeling the sun on my face and smelling the pine needles. I read my book so many times, I wore down the raised dots. There were the Arabian Nights, Robinson Crusoe, and one of my favorites, Little Women. In those pages, I met brave boys and girls who could see and hear. One of Miss Sullivan's best lessons came when she showed me how plants grow. Feel these buds? Some buds open fast and others open slowly. A flower can only bloom if it is watered. When I was 9 years old, I wanted to learn how to speak. Even Miss Sullivan was worried about teaching me. She thought I'd get frustrated, but nothing would stop me now. To help me, Miss Sullivan took me to the teacher named Sarah Fuller, who would put my hand to her face and let me feel her tongue and lips as she made each sound. Yes, Helen, feel each sound like the vibrating strings on a piano. In an hour, I learned the letters M, P, A, S, T, and I. Now I could call my dog and she'd come to me. At my 7th lesson, I spoke this sentence, the sentence that I'd repeat over and over. I am not dumb now. As I got older, I didn't just learn to speak English. I learned French and German. And for college, I wanted to go to Radcliffe at Harvard University. Maybe she should wait another year. Deaf and blind people don't go to college. I'm going, said Helen. I wouldn't argue, said her mother. There's no stopping her. At Harvard, most of my books weren't available in braille. So Miss Sullivan spelled out many of the textbooks in my hand. That's how much I loved learning. And that's how patient and selfless Miss Sullivan was. I became the first deaf and blind person to earn a college degree, and I won't be the last. As I grew older, I wrote 12 books and visited 34 countries. But the most important thing I did was to make sure that other people with disabilities could get the same education I had. My family had the money to hire a private teacher, and not everyone is that lucky. We need to give every person an equal chance. Today, thousands of deaf and blind students enroll in universities thanks to the work that Helen did. The little boy down in the corner here is holding up a book that says Helen rides a horse. How did she do that? They wondered. That was only the beginning. I didn't just help the deaf and blind. I started fighting for social change, to help women vote, to help the poor survive, and to help people who needed it most. She was one of the earliest supporters of the ACLU to fight for free speech. ACLU stands for American Civil Liberties. She was also one of the first supporters of the NAACP to help Black people get equal rights as well. She met every president from Grover Cleveland to Lyndon Johnson. But to be quite honest, they met her. Today, the American Foundation for the Blind and Helen Keller International continue to help the blind and hungry. In my life, they say I was different. They said I'd never be normal, but the truth is there's no such thing as a normal life. Every one of us is like a flower that must be watered. Every one of us is full of potential. And every one of us can overcome obstacles. Look at me. Hear my words. I may not be able to see, but I have a vision. I may not be able to hear, but I have a voice. Think of your life as a hill that must be climbed. There's no correct path to get to the top. We all zigzag in our own way. And at some point you'll slip and you'll fall and you'll tumble back down again. But if you get up and keep climbing, I promise you, you will reach the top. Don't let anything hold you back. Our lives are what we make of them. There will always be obstacles and there will always be a way around them. I am Helen Keller, and I won't let anything stop me. The end. These are some pictures of Helen in real life. Oh, one last thing. Go say thank you to your teacher who helped you when you needed it the most. There's so many wonderful things about Helen's story, aren't there? But I think the last thing she said about thanking your teacher is really, really important, because if it wasn't for the two teachers that Helen had, she wouldn't have been able to do what she did. So Anne Sullivan was her first most special teacher. Something else I forgot to tell you guys. I live in Connecticut. I know some of you are in Connecticut, but others are all over the place. Helen Keller lived in Connecticut as well. I thought that was a fun fact I figured out at the end. Have a great day, everyone. And let Helen Keller be an inspiration to you. Because if a little girl who went blind and deaf could graduate from one of the best colleges in the country, you all can do anything you set your mind to. Have a great day and come back soon so I can read to you some more.